is the center of the high school sports universe. The Prep Spin Podcast. We are Prep Spin. We are your school, your sport, your team, your game. Live from the BGO studio. Presented by Mingy Beef Jerky. This is the one and only. The man, the myth, the legend. This is the king of stream. William Warfield. William Warfield.
Hey, what's up, everybody? William Warfield here with you once again. And, man, I tell you what, the shows continue to get better and better each and every time. We're blessed tonight to be joined by my good friend, a guy that I've known for quite a few years now, run into him, here and there along the state championship tournaments. But Matt Buttelwerth is going to be joining us. He's with Tri-State Sports Radio out of Northern Kentucky. We're going to talk a little bit of Northern Kentucky sports, talk a little bit of technology here tonight as well. So I'm looking forward to the talk. And with no further ado, here we go. Matt, how's everything going, man?
Good. How about yourself?
It's going good, man. It's going really good here, Prep Spin land. And I know you guys are doing some big things up there with Tri-State Sports Radio.
Yeah, we started out in 2005. I worked at 700 WLW. I ran the Reds and the Bengals radio networks for a number of years, and then when my kids started playing high school ball, they went to Gallatin County, and short of their weekly newspaper. The kids down there and down in that part of north central Kentucky, around the 8th region, really didn't get a lot of press, a lot of pub, other than their just local paper. And I'm like, you know what? I've been doing radio for 7-8 years. We need to see what we can do. And so we reached out to the guys up here in Northern Kentucky that were already doing it. Dave Schabel, who's been broadcasting Bishop Brossard games well before we started, reached out to him and a couple of folks who aren't around anymore, and got ideas. Hey, what kind of equipment are you using? That sort of thing, and got started. When we first got going, it was over an analog phone line. The audio was horrible, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But it's we've been blessed. We have done well over 650 broadcasts now after taking a year and a half off. But got back into the saddle with a full schedule this past year. Didn't get to see you down at the All-A for the games that you did down there, but got a full schedule, boys and girls basketball games in, and it really worked out well this year.
Yeah, you guys well known up there in the Northern Kentucky area, covering the 8th, 9th, and 10th regions. When you talk about who covers it up there, quite a bit, you hear a couple different names out there, but I always hear your name pop up. And, that just shows
I
your
hope
respect.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Having your name popped up, you and I talked a little bit, before we went on air here tonight, but you're right. People start to notice when you give back so much to the communities, to the schools, and through your hard work and effort, people recognize you, and you're truly a voice of Northern Kentucky sports. When we first started, it was all about, Gallatin County at the time, but then as we expanded, we wanted to make sure that we kept the smaller schools in view. Mm-hmm.
You know, the up here in northern Kentucky, the Ludlows, the Daytons, the Bellevue. Um, you know, let's face it, those kids, you know, unless you've got a real bumper crop of athletes that come through, you know, more than likely they're going to go to the Covcast, the Highlands, the Coopers, um, you know, where traditions are being built now. You know, you look at what Coach Tim Sullivan has done with Cooper, being their only coach, taking them to the state finals a couple years ago. I mean, that's where the kids want to go. But we keep the focus a little bit. I mean, we'll still do games at Highlands, at Cooper, at Boone County, but we also make sure that we get a good dose of the smaller schools into our schedules too.
Yeah.
I always tell the story back when we first started. There was a young man by the name of Daniel Neely at Owen County, and was just an athlete. He wasn't the tallest kid, but he could freaking shoot,
Yeah.
and nobody knew him. And it's like, you know, that's why I want to do this, because I want to be able to bring names like that, you know, out of those schools and, you know, give them the pub that they deserve. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, there was a kid out of Owen County named Carson Williams who ended up winning Mr. Basketball.
Right.
And, you know, he had everybody in Owen County knows who Carson Williams is. And, you know, but those small schools, you know, although when as he was going through school, you know, Coach Duvall bumped up their schedule quite a bit, you know, to get them ready. And it was just a shame they didn't get out of the region that year as a senior with that group. So,
Yeah,
but
we caught Carson at Lafayette playing, and man, he had this crazy dunk. You know,
yeah,
split two defenders, and then just, I mean, killed the rim.
he's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And I know Northern Kentucky's wishing right now they had him.
Yeah, I'm gonna try
But
to pull up.
he's done really well down at Western with Coach Stansberry, and I think you know, he'll have another year to go. Actually, two now, I believe. And you know, it's just a shame that everything, including, you know, our Sweet 16, you know, got put on hold with this virus. And you know, that's one thing I do want to say tonight is, you know, folks, I'll be the first one to tell you, I was so skeptic of this whole thing, you know, thinking everything was overblown. And you know, working where I work, you know, we see it, and it's just incredible, you know, how we've been able to flatten that curve. You hear that term a lot. Um, you know, I think Governor Bashir, or it was DeWine in Ohio, said that they hoping that the peak is already here,
Yeah.
well in advance of when it was supposed to be. So, folks, just stay safe, keep your distance, do what you got to do.
Stay at home, I
You
think, is the
know,
most important thing right now.
absolutely. I'm working from home now. Um, you know, my wife's working from home now, and it's you know, it's not too bad. But just stay home, don't go out. I know where I live, I'm right next to Dearborn County, Indiana, and if it's not an essential trip, you've got $1,000 fine and 180 days in jail looking at you. At
Wow.
this point, I mean, they're really starting to crack down. So
Yeah.
just stay safe, folks. Let's get through this, and uh, you know, we'll be able to party on the backside.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And you know, people keep saying, you know, well, we miss high school sports, we miss, you know, normal stuff that maybe perhaps we all took for granted, you know. But you know, right now is the time really to kind of buckle down on on what we need to do, and that's really just stay home, stay away from, don't even go to the grocery store at this point unless you really, really have to, right?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we've got Kroger up here. They deliver. Although I just placed an order today, I'm not going to get it until Sunday.
Yeah.
So, order everything you need now and what you think you're going to need for a while. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, getting back with Carson right here. I was able to pull that clip out of our vault here, so I'm gonna play
Gotcha.
that real quick and let you see what I'm talking about. But you're gonna watch Carson Williams. He's gonna split these defenders right here,
Yep.
and then let's just dunk over two more guys, right?
Yeah.
Then the defender, number 44, there was so pumped up. He's like, "Man, that was a great dunk, right?" I think we slow mo it here, but it was just amazing.
He did that over so many guys in the 8th region, the 31st district. It's almost a badge of honor if you got posterized by Carson Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine, being posterized by Carson Williams. Like 44 there was, he's pumped up about it. I bet you he's probably got that on his wall. Like, hey, man, Carson Williams dunked on
I bet
us.
he does. It's
So,
definitely on his phone. Hey, look at this.
Matt McCarthy sent you a shout out. He says that you're the man. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I appreciate that. Yeah, we worked with Matt when we were doing video with his guys, and that was a good time. We appreciated their help.
Yeah, Man and I go way back. He's over there in Louisville with the live sportscasters.
Yep.
Yeah, they do a really good job over there. They cover a lot of like Trinity and schools
Yep.
over there in Louisville, and it's always good to connect. Like yesterday on the podcast, we had Eastern Kentucky. The D&D sports guys were on. Daryl McCoy was on with us. So we were literally we've hit I think all parts of the state so far in this show this last.
There you go.
But yeah, so you're doing big things like we said up there in northern Kentucky. But what about the stars that you get to see up there? You mentioned a couple, but what about like Maddie Shearer?
I tell you, we did what we thought was going to be probably the best game of the year, the first game of the year for us. We had Ryle and Simon Kenton out at Ryle. That was Ryle's second game. They had just played Campbell County the first game of the year, and Maddie got hammered in that game, and she sat the Simon Kenton game.
Yeah.
And Simon Kenton blew Ryle out of the water by 30 in that game. And it's like, okay, is this going to be the Ryle team that goes and does what they did last year? And, come to find out, who's going to the 9th region at BB&T Arena out of the 33rd. They had a tough matchup in the districts with Connor, and Maddie just continued what she did last year. Gatorade Player of the Year this year. Just won the Donna Murphy award this year. Donna Murphy, the former Newport grad, who has an award named after her that's given out each year. Maddie won that. She's going to Oregon, and after Ryle won the region this year, I got to go down onto the floor and interview her, although briefly. And I tell you, just what a class act. Oregon got a good one, and that whole program in the Northwest. I mean, you got the Naismith Player of the Year this year, Erin Boley from E-Town. She's going to be a senior this year. I mean, they're loaded, and now they've got Maddie Shearer coming. So It was really unfortunate to see Maddie go down with the ankle during the region. And as you and I talked earlier, the air went out of BB&T Arena when she hit the floor. And, I know we took an extended commercial break just because, it took them a little bit to get her off the floor. And we didn't want to speculate, ankle, knee, whatever. Um, but it was hard. But you credit the rest of the Lady Raiders, Bree Crittenden,
She's special.
Jayden
Yeah.
Doubtful, all those girls who stepped up and put the team on their back and won the region again.
Yeah.
On the boys' side of things, you've got Grant Diskin over at Covenant Catholic. We got to see him this year at the region. Just a number of kids. I know we spent more time, I believe, with the 9th region folks this year than we normally would. We did the entire 9th region, all A boys and girls, so we got to see all of the all A schools this year. A couple of kids out of Newport can really just shake the rim. They actually broke one at Newport earlier this year. They got some tremendous athletes. Newcath, with Coach Don coming back to the helm for Newcath this year. A lot of teams rebuilding. A lot of teams with new coaches. Dayton with Coach Ron Kinman, the former Grant County coach, taking over at Dayton this year. On the girls' side, Coach Aaron Stam, who left #1 last year, rated Connor to go back where he grew up at Ludlow this year, took Ludlow to the region this year.
Yeah.
A lot of movement, and it made for a lot of good basketball this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm glad to hear that Newport Central Catholics is getting their head coach back. Because he it seemed like every year he was playing for all A state championship.
Absolutely, boys and girls.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, they have done a tremendous job at Newcath promoting their folks. It seems like whenever they have a coaching change or when Coach Detzel, the former AD, left, they're becoming principals. They're becoming administrators. They're following their career paths. And although we miss them on the floor coaching, it's all in what's better for them and their families to move on with their careers. And, seeing Coach Don come back this year, we did their first game of the year with Walton Verona, who also had a new coach in Coach Mike Hester. I think he was out. He's still the principal at Newcath, but I think he was out for 3 or 4 years. And Coach Colopy had taken over, and then he became an administrator, and which kind of brought Coach Don back. So, they do a good job in promoting their own out there. That's for sure.
Looks like they were 16-10 on the season this year.
Yeah, they had so many injuries through the course of the year. Evan Mulligan started out. He missed the first 6 games, I think, with a stress fracture. And then you had Ross Pangallo go down for a few games in there. It seems like their projected initial starting 5 all took time off on the bench.
Yeah.
They fell to Newport in the district, I believe, and Coach Snap had the Wildcats peaking at just the right time, and Newcat didn't make the region this year. But they'll be back. They've got a good crew coming back, and they'll definitely be back to BB&T here before too long.
Yeah, I thought one of the funnest teams to watch up there was St. Henry. Because you had that Wyatt Veith kid. I believe that's how you say his last name. But
it is.
Yeah, so he, and he'll be back next year, so. But he certainly put on a show over there at the All A, and then they had that big win, earlier in the season against Lexington Catholic, a team that probably should have been at Rupp Arena, as to Scott County, and Scott County upset Lexington Catholic. But yeah, St. Henry's on the rise, and I know Covington Catholic, was able to win the regional championship against them. Actually, really well. It looks like that final score was 74-51, but St. Henry looked so good during the season.
They really did, and I have to give a plug. That's my alma mater. So, Coach Faust has brought this crew. This crew really reminds me of the Owen County crew when Carson was a senior. Those kids had all played together for so many years, and that hard work combined with Coach Faust's regimen. He is a disciple of Coach Don, and we saw a few of his practices, and there are some programs that will, during practice the kids are joking around and stuff like that. You don't see that in a Coach Faust practice. It is all business all the time, and it really showed this year. I think St. Henry ended up losing 3 or 4 games, maybe at most. Just a tremendous year. And they lost, I want to say 4 seniors off that squad, but Wyatt Veith is back. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick here.
I actually got it here as well.
There.
So you got, just about everybody's returning.
Yeah.
They had Alex Daniel was a senior, listed as a senior there, and then Connor Shea was a senior. And then Charlie Watson was a senior.
Yeah. Charlie Watson really didn't play all that much. Connor, the point guard, and Luke Mayer also, he ended up getting a little bit of time in there with Alex. But when you're going to have Jude Bessler coming back, Ryan Butler coming back, Cody Teaton coming back, he's going to be in the middle starting next year. He was 6th man coming off the bench this year. And then with Wyatt also. I really have a feeling they'll give Covcath a run for their money again next year.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, Wyatt averaged 18.4 points per game, and then Jude Bessler, he was at 14.1 points per game, and then you mentioned Cody Teaton, right at 6 points a game. So, you got when St. Henry won the 9th, or actually when they won the state, when we talked with Coach Faust, that group played as a team all the way through. When they would start to double team Wyatt, you've got Ryan Butler hitting threes. When Bessler would go out with foul trouble, you had Teaton doing all the work inside. They had so much depth this year. You had Connor and Corey Shea, who were pretty much interchangeable at the point. Really did just a tremendous job, and that coaching staff has been in place for a number of years. Coach Billy Arthur, who I grew up with, lived around the corner from, played basketball with, him and
Oh gosh, who am I missing? I can't think of it offhand.
It's always
But
hard to. It's
that
all.
crew's been together for a long time, and
Yeah.
just like Coach Sean's crew of Coach Meyer, Coach Pangallo, these guys, they keep together, and you don't see a lot of movement off those benches unless they're getting head coaching positions somewhere else.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I find it hard sometimes to keep up with everybody's name. I mean, because there's so many people that we meet doing what
It
we do.
is, and you know, you mentioned also. I think you tweeted later in the year. Um, if it wasn't you, it was another broadcaster. Uniforms.
Yes.
Um,
Hard to see
South
uniforms.
Oldham, South Oldham put out these black uniforms with dark green numbers.
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrible.
And probably no stripe
Um,
to outline those numbers, right?
none, none. The first night they wore them was the game we did with Carroll County down in Carrollton, and you know, I'll be honest. I'm 55 years old. I do wear glasses, and my vision's not the best. But when you throw those green numbers on a black jersey, and you're trying to see down at the other end of the court when you haven't seen South Oldham all year, good luck to you.
Yeah. Man.
It was, I made sure we did the semifinals of the eighth along with the finals. And I sent an email to John Caston in Henry County, and I said, hey, please tell me that South's wearing their whites tonight, not those black ones. He said, yeah, they're the home team. They're wearing white. And I'm like, thank God. But
yeah,
that's one place. That's one place. If you have not done a game at yet, you need to go to Henry County.
Yeah. Yeah.
Down to the Roy.
Good,
It is
good place to go.
They've held the 8th region tournament there, I believe, since 1959. And they just put a brand new floor in. They've put new lights in. It's a horseshoe. And years ago, they had one of those square scoreboards in the middle of the floor, up in the ceiling. And you talk about nostalgia, but they have done a tremendous job in updating that gym. And this year alone, they added 3 more broadcast positions on the other side behind the scores table. That's where we were this year. And when you go to do the 8th region tournament, you've got to fight for space.
Yeah.
Because there are at least 6 different broadcast outlets there almost every night. It's awesome.
Yeah, I
There's
believe
no
it.
shortage of coverage in little old Newcastle, Kentucky, at the end of February, 1st of March.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Kentucky is no matter where you're at, people love their basketball, but it does go on another level when you talk about, the mountain schools, the northern Kentucky schools. I think to a degree, your Louisville schools that are basketball schools,
Yep.
But it's always good to see that. And what would you say, going to all the different gyms that you have over the course of the years, what's some of the cathedrals, if you will, of high school basketball that you've been able to broadcast in?
Well, you figure I've been around since the late 70s, early 80s. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the gyms have either been renovated, redone, or brand new. You look at some of the schools, some of the newer schools, like Cooper, their gym is massive. They could hold the region there. Covenant Catholic is I will tell you that is where I made my first basket when I played,
Yeah.
and that holds a special place. Now, we tend not to go there just like some of the other schools that are now starting to do their own broadcasts. We won't go in there because we don't want to take away from what they're trying to build with their followings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Covcath, when it comes to the regions, um, we have not broadcast a game for Mason County. I would love to down at the field house.
Yeah.
BB&T Arena, as you well know, is it's a great place for ball. It holds 10,000 seats, and you're not going to sell them out, but you can get down close. You can, you're on a Division I college floor, and the atmosphere is tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, I mean, I think no slight intended at all to the ninth region, but I just mentioned it. Henry County, will not find a more intense atmosphere, and it doesn't matter who of the 17 or 18 schools are playing. The gym is absolutely full, and it doesn't matter if they're from Oldham County, Owen County, Williamstown when they played a couple years ago, um, Simon Kenton. Um, they all travel so well.
Yeah.
When you get to the All A, and you probably saw it this year too, with Walton's girls and Gallatin County's boys, they travel. It doesn't matter where it is, they'll go. Like we talked about earlier when Carson was going through Owen County, turn out the lights and the last one out of town, lock the door because there's nobody in Owenton when the running Rebels are playing. But the atmosphere, it gets hot. You can barely move.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the types of places that, I mean, people talk about those games year in and year out. This year, when we went down, like I said, we did the semis and the finals of the boys. It's funny, but it's classic that you will see some older gentlemen, a lot older than me, in those stands just reminiscing about old games because it's all about the history.
Yeah.
And that gym holding that tournament since '59, I believe it's '59. Mike Montgomery will probably correct me, but they, there's so much history in that building. And this year it was good to be a part of it. Seeing Collins with Mr. Kentucky nominee out of the 8th region.
Collins has got a really nice gym too, from what I've seen on pictures. I've never personally been
I've
there.
seen pictures. With the work that Coach Gaither has done over the past 4 years with Marcellus Vale and Davion McKnight, Tyson Turner, and that crew, it's a shame. And we could talk about the Sweet 16. It's a shame that they didn't get to play Mayo. They played them twice this year. The last time I think they fell to them by 4 points, 4 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that, and I know there's been some talk on Bluegrass Preps about the financial aspect of the Sweet 16 for the boys and the girls and what that means to the KHSAA. I hope that they are able to get it in. I have my doubts, but I really hope they do.
Yeah,
And I felt so bad for all these seniors who did not get to finish their road.
Yeah. I think the cutoff date would have to be July. Sometime in July, because what happens in July is those seniors, they've got to be ready to report to their college destinations, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so if you can't get it in May or June, then we're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't know how the numbers have played. I really haven't seen Governor Bashir's press conferences here lately
we've got May
as to
1st
when
right
they
now.
think. What is it?
The deadline. Well, what they've put out is we got what's going on until May 1st as of right now.
May 1st. Yes. Yes. Um, but as far as when they really feel that their peak is coming
Hmm.
and getting on the backside, although you can't really jump right back in and do it all, or you just have to start it all over again.
Yeah.
But I feel bad, for all those seniors. Um, the one thing, if they do end up getting to play, Maddie Shearer might actually be able to play in the state games.
Yeah.
So,
I
we
think she would have been able to play that next game if they would have played. I mean, they Letcher County Central. I don't think that was a tough game for them, but
no,
I think that they would have needed her in that second round. I think they would have played her because she looked pretty good, out there, just walking around during warm ups on the rec
yeah,
arena floor.
yeah. I didn't get to see the game. Um, they had Bullet East coming up after them,
Hmm.
who had just beaten E-Town.
And Bullet East was really, really impressive in their first round game.
Yeah, and I think the winner of that one would have played Anderson County, which I probably would have went down to see, uh, no doubt.
Hmm.
But because I want to say 859 Radio was going down to Rupp for Ryle,
Yeah.
um, to do their games. But then we didn't get to see anything out of the bottom half of the bracket other than South Laurel and Sacred Heart. So, a lot of kids didn't even get to step foot on the floor, and that's a shame. When you work so hard throughout the course of the year, and um, you have the excitement of winning the region tournament, and you've got Clark County, who squeaked one out past Bishop Brossart in the 10th region. Owensboro Catholic, Russell, Bowling Green, Henderson County, Marshall County didn't even get to play.
Yeah.
So, you just feel for those kids and all of the boys. Uh, but hopefully, we get on the backside of this and they can make it work somehow.
Yeah, it was tough on the girls. We got into game 5 and they let that game play through to the end. The South Laurel
Yeah.
game. South Laurel with a nice win, by the way. Definitely give credit out to Coach Chris Souter and his South Laurel Cardinals. Just amazing win there for them. But
How about going from Mercer County to South Laurel and taking both teams to the state?
yeah, he's something else, man. Well,
He
the
is.
most impressive thing I think that's on his resume is all the district championships that he's won in a row. Because he kept the streak going on, when he went down there. But when you look
Yeah.
back at Mercer County, I think there was 12 in a row district
Wow.
championships, and then I think 6 regional championships out of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean he's
That's a lot of wins.
yeah, no doubt. I wanted to touch base because you had mentioned earlier Walton Verona's girls team, and
Yes.
I thought they were impressive too. I got to see them over at the All A, and I got to see them one other time during the regular season. But they have a young lady on their team, Emma Strunk. She's really,
Yep.
really good. She averaged 15.1 points per game, and then Emma Gutman, 9.2 points per game, and then I thought Haley Neely. She was really like the floor general for them.
Yeah.
Getting distributing the ball and everything. But she even averaged 9.1 points per game. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. And probably should
Absolutely.
say Addison Michael, too, and Maddie
Yeah.
Berger.
They, it was Maddie got to play Maddie Berger.
Hmm.
Interesting story with her. Um, she played in the All A, and then had a game. Was it at Owen? I believe it was for the NCKC Conference Championship.
Okay.
About 20 seconds left in the ball game. The game's tied, and Maddie took a charge and was pretty much knocked out.
Oh, wow.
She went through concussion protocol. They air cared her. It was at Owen County. They had to air care her from Owen County High School to Children's Hospital in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
She was fine to come home later that morning, but they spent, I want to say, 3 weeks without her.
Yeah.
She had just gotten into the starting role, and was really starting to show what she had this year. And she went down, and I believe they got her back right at the end of districts.
Yeah.
And just did a phenomenal job for him this year. You talked about Addie Michael. We had her on one of the nights at Henry County during the region. And, she's a great softball player as well. And she actually had a scholarship. Where was she going? Midway, maybe, to play softball.
Mm-hmm.
And, because of all this, she has lost her entire senior year playing softball. But what Coach Clankenbeard has done in developing that program over all these years, is nothing short of miraculous. He is always in the hunt for not just the 8th Region All-A, but the 8th Region. They do such a good job. They've added Rihanna Gayhart from she's a NKU graduate, played 4 years there,
Mm-hmm.
and former Owen County Lady Rebel as well. She'll end up taking over that team if and when Coach Klink ever decides to hang it up. But you got Coach Jesse Lay in there as well, and they've just done a great job in developing those girls, getting them into AAU, getting them the experience, and all that stuff pays off. All that summer work pays off in the end, that's for sure.
Yeah, Simon Kenton is kind of their big competition there in that. At least they were this past year, but looks like Simon Kenton's losing some of their star players there. So, especially with Maddie Vickers, she's not going to be. She graduates. But you had mentioned softball too, and dual sport athletes. Of course, we encourage all athletes to play multiple sports. It's good for you not to specialize in sports the whole year round.
Absolutely.
I don't think. But when we talk about the kids that are really going to be impacted a lot by the virus going on right now, is the spring sports kids, and this is why, because with the NCAA, saying, hey, well, we're going to give another year of eligibility to all the kids that were going to play this year and the seniors. So what does that do for all these kids that recruited to play softball that's going to go in next year? All the seniors that are playing softball or baseball, for example, and going to go to college, are there going to be any spots for them?
It's a good question. Not having a senior year, you hope that you've developed a resume through your previous years. The only thing you can do is really just continue to develop your skills, whether it's in the cage, on the mound,
Just try
all the track athletes. Just to maintain and hone your skills that you're able to continue to develop once you get into college and get those strength and conditioning coaches, position player coach or position coaches, stuff like that. Get with them early if possible. Once all this stuff subsides, to be able to see where you are, with your skill set moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, so we touched on the Sweet 16 where there's a small chance, it's probably a very thin thread that we may get that in. But if we can get this May deadline and everybody goes back to school, which is really stretching it probably, but it would be cool to see the teams be able to play out the Sweet 16, and who knows, we may have a little bit of baseball and softball if that happens.
It'd be nice. I know when we were doing baseball games, we've done the 9th region tournament. They held it at, what used to be the Florence Freedom, now the Florence Y'alls Stadium.
Yeah, that's a good name change.
Yeah, they a little original there. All you do is just look across the interstate to the water tower.
Yeah.
But
growing up, coming through there, that's the one thing that I always remembered is, that y'all on the, Florence y'all on the water tower.
Yep.
And I always knew where that was at.
That's it. It's been there since 75, 76, something like that.
Yeah.
When Florence Mall was the place to go. Now it's definitely not where anybody goes.
Hey, I'm guilty of going there a couple times because my kids, they still like going in there and riding the little merry-go-round. Well, it's not a little merry-go-round; it's huge. But
yeah, they that's all gone.
The merry-go-round is out now.
Yeah, I believe all that stuff's out. I think the only thing they have left is they had a little train that was like underneath an escalator, and I think that's about all that's left. That place is pretty much vacant.
Really?
Yeah, I went out and did a little bit of mall walking before all this happened, and that was the place to go when I was growing up. I mean, you had Tilt, the arcade down there, and when the video stores were all over the place, they had at least 3 or 4 of those in there, and but now it's just it's pretty much empty. But those games, when it gets into May and June, I have a feeling if they do end up playing them, those are going to be all morning games.
Yeah, maybe a bunch of double headers.
That's for sure. Because I can remember, especially on that field, it's turf. It's not dirt. And, it gets to be, whatever the temperature range is to call a game, 100 degrees or something like that on the field.
Yeah.
It got like that around 11 o'clock in the morning, especially on because they always did that tournament, the first round on Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the entire day. You had all the parents could come because everybody was off work, and the place was decently filled, but it did get to be so hot. And the press box had a stainless steel counter, and when that sun's coming in, reflecting off of that counter, you just raise the temperature of the press box about 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So it was something, but hopefully, like we said, all this stuff dies down and we can get the Sweet 16 in, get some of the spring and summer or spring sports in, and let these kids finish their senior years.
Yeah, that would be amazing if that happens. Again, it's a small chance, but at this point, the KHSA has not canceled it yet. It still remains suspended.
Yep. Suspended.
Yep. So that's
That's
a
it.
big thing. There's a little light there on maybe
Yeah.
getting to play again. So
What's up?
we had talked about in the pre-show, telling a story of your first broadcast. Do you remember?
Oh, I do. So like it was yesterday. Um, so, as I said at the beginning, we were just doing Gallatin County. My kids were playing. My daughter was still playing. My son had just graduated. And my son and I were calling the game. And it was the first game of the year. It was boys basketball against Trimble County. Coach Bob Lauster had brought his crew in, and Gallatin County ended up winning the game. But our equipment was so antiquated. I mean, I had a laptop and I had a small mixer, and we used a group called Sports Juice, who's no longer in business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically, I had to provide the phone line in the gym, had it tied to the bleachers behind the scores table, and they would call that phone number. I would see a light pop up on this box that I had borrowed from WLW. I hit a button to connect the line, and off we went. And the first game, we'd been to practices, had been to scrimmages and everything, and I thought, here we go. And my son and I spent most of the first quarter watching the game and not saying a word. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off saying, "Hey, you're here to call the game, not watch it. Start talking." And it went from there. But it was one of those things. Those early games were just so horrible. Um, I hadn't played ball since '79. I had watched a lot of my son's games, with him playing. Um, but it's totally different. So for those who would say, "Yeah, I could do that," try it.
Yeah, no doubt.
You will get the same thing. You'll want to watch it instead of talking. How about yours?
Yeah, so my first game was back in 2007. First
Okay.
game that I ever broadcast. You guys were, obviously around before we were, so kind of leading the way there. But we did a West Jessamine and Southwestern baseball game. It was at West Jessamine.
Gotcha.
And I'm looking here on the KHSA site just to see if they got that score still, just so I can add that to the story. But my brother-in-law, he had mentioned to me, he's like, we should go try to do some baseball. Um, you know, we we were doing it through this thing. You remember these?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got one.
So what I would do is I would basically do the play-by-play in here, and we had this little website, going on, and
Yeah.
I would upload those after the game. So technically, that was our first experience, right?
Wow.
And then later in the year during basketball season, and by the way, on that baseball game, we were horrible. I was just agreeing mostly with my brother-in-law. He was doing the play-by-play, and
Yeah.
just kind of agreeing with him. He would be like, there's a swing and a miss, and I'd be like, yeah, John. Yeah, John. That was my favorite word during that whole broadcast was yeah, John. But later on in that year, we ended up doing some basketball games, and that's when Easy Stream, remember Easy Stream?
Yeah.
So we got hooked up with them, and we were able to go live. We actually had a car dealership, buy the laptop package. We had the laptop, the little Acer
Yeah.
laptop, and got the year of the streaming. So we spent that sponsorship on that, and
Gotcha.
that's when we first started doing the basketball games. And we had a radio station down in Stanford, Kentucky. Jonathan Smith, he's the owner there of those stations. But WPBK is who it is.
Okay.
All right, so he's like,
They don't come to the 8th region.
yeah, no,
They're
no,
one of the few that
yeah.
don't.
This is deep in the heart of the 12th region that I'm speaking of here.
There you go.
So yeah, so he was like, I've heard some of your all stuff on the website, and if you guys are interested, if you want to sell some sponsorships, I'll let you guys do every East Jessamine, every West Jessamine game of the basketball tournament. Okay. So we did so, and we ended up catching the Jared Polson teams,
There you go.
ended up going to Rupp. So
Yeah.
now I'm skipping a little bit of the time frame here. By the time Jonathan Smith heard us to our first broadcast, but that was our big break, was Jonathan Smith inviting us to do the live play by play on the radio.
Yeah.
And so make a long story short, we got back in town after doing some of those amazing runs by the West Jasmine Colts there in that basketball, and then we go to Walmart or someplace like that, and everybody's like, "Man, you guys did great," and it just kind of filled our, made our head swell, if you will.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
It's amazing, when you get out, in the public, and most of these folks, they've got kids playing, or it's their grandkids or nieces, nephews, what have you. And like I was saying earlier, back in the early days here in Northern Kentucky with Dale McMillan up here at WHKK Radio, it was a big deal when Dale would come into your gym. It's like, hey, I'm going to have my name on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, now, you jump from an AM or FM signal to worldwide with what we do today. Yeah. It's amazing. Back when the 9th region tournament first started going to BB&T Arena, we had that's when Holmes was making their runs in the 9th region. And we had a couple of Holmes grads living in Europe, and they were tuning in. Somebody had gotten them our URL, and I thought that was the best thing in the world. It's like, here we are, people are listening to us over across the pond, and you see it today, with the stats that we get through our platform, where folks are listening, and you've got coaches and their families who've got relatives living out of state or something like that, and I mean that's really the reason that we do it, not just for the kids, but for everybody who listens. I mean, I think we had a good over 7,000 folks listen through the course of the year this year. Just tremendous numbers. And, my broadcast partner, Steve Durst, who works with me, he's starting to get blown away by this stuff. He had never done a game before. He jumps on now, and he sees all the inner workings and what goes on behind the scenes, and how you have to game prep and all that. And the thing now, with all the schools that are starting to do it, up here in Northern Kentucky, you've got Kevin Dallas and the folks at Beechwood that are starting to do it. Bishop Brossard, who's been doing it since well before us. Basically, everybody in the 35th, other than Notre Dame and Holmes, has a broadcast crew. A lot of the folks down in the 8th region either have a radio station or are starting to pick it up, starting broadcast clubs and stuff like that. And it's a great thing to see. Highlands just started doing it. Henry County just started doing it. Mike Montgomery, who does all the games of the 8th region tournament, boys and girls, he partnered up with the Henry County folks, and they've got a setup kind of like what you have between his live stream. He uses Live Sportscaster too, tied into the Henry County video. They had like 4 cameras on the floor, in the stands, everything, and it really made for a great feed that Mike was able to put together this year with the Henry County folks. So,
Mm-hmm.
And it just continues to grow. I mean, what's next? Everybody's using IP protocol to get the games out and stuff like that now. And, when you go from an analog phone line back in the day to, your tape recorder for baseball and uploading it later. We record all of our games too. On my laptop, I've got Adobe Audition. We record it all.
Yeah.
And we upload that. So our archive, as we get into the summer, I've got everything uploaded from this year and the past couple years. We're going to start working on some of that old audio and getting that up with the game summaries and stuff that we did. So technology's just really taken us full circle.
Yeah, no doubt. We first got into the video aspect right at Jared Polson's senior year.
Gotcha.
So we're talking 2011. But I wanted to reflect back because you had mentioned that Holmes team. The Holmes when they were really good in basketball.
Yep.
So the 2007-2008 Holmes team that played Mason County in the championship. That was my first ever Sweet 16 as a media participant because I was taking photos on the baseline.
Gotcha.
Putting up on the blog, right? So that was my very first one. So I remember that Holmes team very well. And I remember, Darius Miller, of course, after holding the trophy and everything. And, that Sweet 16 will always be special. So I just wanted to share that one with you.
Well, we've done one game at Rupp. A few years after that, when Dixie Heights went down with Brandon Hatton, who now holds the record in scoring here in the 9th region. When Dixie went down, I brought Coach Alan Mullins, who was on the 81 Simon Kenton team that won down at Rupp. He and I called their game, and that was my only trip down to do a state game for us. We've done state football when Simon Kenton went the first year. They played Trinity, and it was, welcome to Louisville. You might as well stay on the bus. It was that kind of game.
Yeah.
But we've done those. We've done some state baseball. We've done a little bit of everything, and it's just, we don't make money off of this at all. We're just looking to pay our bills, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, we definitely, when you're in this, there's not a whole bunch of money on the high school side. Now we've kind of got into the production side, so we've kind of branched out with that, and that's where the money comes in for us. Is on the production side, but the high school stuff is just for the love of high school sports.
It really is, and I played on the St. Henry team. It was, we played Simon Kenton in '81. We were the first game that played in the new gym after the explosion in 1980 out at Simon Kenton. Our game was the first game in the new gym. We've seen a lot of firsts. We've seen a lot of milestones. As I'm sure you guys have too. And, there's nothing like it. I can vividly remember, this was a few years back. We were doing a Walton Verona girls game, and Courtney Sandlin got her 1,000th point. And we were doing the game. We were actually doing video at the time. And, she came up. Her parents always sat behind us because her sister was doing our camera at the time. And she came up to us, and she's giving her sister Desi a hug and her parents and everything. And, we interviewed her after the game, and just to be a part of those kind of milestones, it's memorable because the kids can go back later on and listen to that game. Sort of like I was saying with Dale. You know, I can't even imagine all of the highlights that he had during the course of his career. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
But you develop those relationships with these kids, and we're Facebook friends with some even still to this day, and it's a good thing to keep those relationships up.
Yeah. I know when we first started out, we didn't have access to getting, those highlights out as quickly as we do now.
Yeah.
But that's certainly a game changer, especially getting these kids noticed at the next level, or even getting them
Absolutely.
some national exposure too.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate enough, and again, I don't want you to think my head's swelling here, but honestly, we've put 35 Sports Center top tens out there since we've been
There
doing
you
this,
go.
and just
It's I guess my crowning achievement was I had the video down in Frankfurt when Holy Cross when their boys won the All A that year,
hmm
and um, we weren't broadcasting the game. We were just filming it with the in gym audio. I wasn't calling the game or anything,
yeah,
and uh, Fox 19 had not sent anybody down like they do now, and they called their AD and they said, "Hey, we got somebody who was doing video up top at the convention center." So I started getting my phone starts ringing, to provide them with their highlight.
yeah,
And I'm like, "Guys, I'm in Frankfurt. Let me get it up to you first." So I had to rush back, cut it up, and get it out to them. That was my lone highlight of having my video on air.
yeah.
But it's we don't do it for that, and I know you guys don't either. But being able to capture that stuff
Great
is great.
keepsakes. Yeah, it's
It really is.
I picture these kids going back, 20, 30 years from now and showing their kids, hey, this is how good I was in high school.
Yeah,
That's what's rewarding for me, is because I know those kids are going to remember, what we were able to do, broadcast their games, and then they're going to be able to go back and see that and show their kids.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah, that's the biggest thing for us. And then, like you said, when you get stories about people watching across the pond, or we had a father for Lafayette football. He was deployed over in Afghanistan, and he was able to
Wow,
watch his son play football. That was huge. And then
that's awesome.
there's a travel team that came over here from Perth, Australia. This is one of these
Yes.
good feel good stories. And travel basketball team, and it was Saturday night here. It was Sunday morning there in Australia, and they were watching the game live the next day.
Wow.
So
There
how,
you go.
how cool is that?
I remember those teams coming through. They toured the state, and I know they spent a couple nights up here and then made their way south.
Yeah, that was big time for them to be able to see
Absolutely,
their travel team come through.
no doubt.
Yeah, so we've talked about all that good stuff. Now, are you guys planning on getting into more of the video stuff, or you're pretty solid on audio right now?
We've got a solid platform with audio. Um, I'm using my phone as my hotspot now. I mean, I have to up my
I'm gonna
data
sh-
plan every basketball season.
I'm gonna pull
But
up your website real quick and show everybody and let you kind of talk about
sure,
it too. So this is
okay,
your
perfect.
website right here.
Yeah.
Um,
So we do use Mixler now. it's basically audio only.
Mm-hmm.
We've used a number of platforms. We've used Live Sportscaster and Boxcast. We've used Meridex in the past. And then for a couple years, I just leased a streaming server and did Shoutcast myself,
Yeah.
and just did it myself without a platform. And I mean, that worked okay, but when you can get a platform, with Mixler, I've been really happy this year with it. I know Beechwood uses it, and a couple others do as well. And being able to have a platform sort of like what you have, um, it's got a chat feature that we can chat with folks during the broadcast. They can ask questions, give us score updates, stuff like that. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
I've got a guy down in Walton who has favorited us, and every game he's there, and he's given me score updates throughout North Central Northern Kentucky. It's great. I don't even have to look at Twitter. But they, that platform has worked well this year. So I think we're probably going to stick with that. It's pretty cost effective. The bandwidth to do video, as you well know, unless you've got a wired connection in a gym somewhere, you've got to have some pretty hefty bandwidth on a hotspot, to be able to do what you do. And we, it's kind of cost prohibitive for us right now to do it. We have a good number of sponsors, and I thank God for every one of them. Because as we say every game, we can't do it without them. And they did us really well this year, and we thank them. But we also, when we were doing video, I've got to have somebody doing the camera, so I've got to give them a little cash.
Right.
At one point we had. And they all worked with me in our department. I got an interface guy, I've got a storage admin, myself, I got a data analyst, and it's all us out doing these games. And my storage guy was doing pictures for us, and he'd take about 2,000 pictures a game, and and then he'd upload them for me, and it's like, man, I can't use all this. And then you've got storage for it all, and I mean, you know about all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's thank God I've got a terabyte of storage in the cloud that I've got kind of cheap, and that's where all the audio archive's going to go, and we'll see how much video I can get up there before it taps out.
Yeah,
but
for the average person too out there, streaming and storing photos and that kind of stuff it gets kind of complicated, for the average person out there. So when we were doing photos, when we first started out, we mentioned the blog earlier, so we did a ton of photos. We'd go to games and take, hundreds and thousands sometimes of pictures a day, depending on what we were doing. But we had, found that smog mug to be useful. And, people, in the beginning would actually order those prints, but, that was fun in kind of what we were doing, right, with the live audio broadcast. But then one day they just stopped buying the pictures. So kids learned how to do the screen capture and take it off, and post it to their Facebook and Twitters and all that. So we had to kind of give up that,
Yeah, it's what folks don't understand, at least in my account. If I could be in a gym every night, I would.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have families,
right?
And that's something that I do not take lightly. My wife is my best friend, and I am very blessed that I have her to support me through this. She knows it's a hobby. She knows that I love to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to take advantage of that. This year we actually took the tact of doing games early in the week, just so our weekends were free to be here at home. We did one. Well, we didn't do a weekend game until we got to the postseason this year. We missed a lot of the big matchups because a lot of those are in prime time on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But we were able to see, 26 out of 41 girls teams and 27 out of 41 boys teams this year.
Wow.
So we got around. When you can do, an all-A, a regional all-A, and see 8 or 9 teams in the span of 2 days, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That helps us, especially when we get to the region. On the girls' side, Ludlow, we had seen them earlier. We had 3 other games this year. Coach Stam, left Connor, came back to Ludlow, and took the Lady Panthers to the region. And seeing them a couple of times, it helps us when you get into the postseason. My broadcast partner, still to this day, he's like, dude, I have no idea how you know these kids' names. You see them once, and it's like, well, it'll take me a good quarter, until you get into the latter part of the games when they do these wholesale changes, and you got a whole new 5, and they're going to empty the bench, and it's like, okay, now you got to start all over again. You just got the 5 down that were in there, and now they've taken them out and put the subs in. But there's a lot of work, and you can attest to this as well, that goes on behind the scenes. Whether we're cutting up audio, creating promos, doing commercials, game prep, getting everything loaded on the laptops to get everything out to the gym, setting up and everything. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And then, like, you showed our website before, then you got to update the websites.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, put events out, make sure people know where you're going to be. And there's a lot of nights that you don't get to bed until late into the early morning, trying to get everything done before the start of the season or before the start of the postseason. Especially, we did 23 postseason games in 2 weeks, and it was, by the time that Tuesday happened at the end of the 8th region boys, I was done. And you're constantly going, and you travel, all over the place as well. And I live on the west side of Cincinnati every day, and making that trip to Henry County an hour and a half each way, I don't mind doing it, and it's just for that reason. It's for the kids, and being able to give them those mementos of of a game that's really important to them. That's the key.
Yeah. Who's some of your favorite all-time sports stars that came out of Northern Kentucky?
Oh gosh.
While you're thinking about that, can I give you one of mine?
Absolutely.
All right, so this is my favorite sports guy that came out of Northern Kentucky. He played at Covington Latin. David
Yes.
Justice.
Yes, sir. Class of '83.
Yeah, so
He played Covington Latin, played in part of the Northern Kentucky Independent Athletic Conference. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, it was Covington Latin, Holy Cross, Silver Grove, St. Henry, and one other. There were 5 of us in that conference.
Okay.
And we played everybody twice. So I got to play against David Justice.
Oh wow, that is awesome.
I don't remember what he did in those games.
Well, he obviously
But,
crushed it, right?
Yeah. At that point, Covington Latin was the team that you wanted to play for homecoming. Kind of still is, but they don't play a regular schedule like they used to.
Yeah.
I would say, gosh, another
guy that's up from around that way that does Monday night football. Isn't Chris Collinsworth up there from around Highlands area?
Fort Thomas.
Okay.
Yes. His son Austin went on to play at Notre Dame as well. Highlands Bluebird grad.
And his daughter was a soccer star there.
Yes. Yep. So they're out of Fort Thomas. You had what's his name? You had Doug Pelfrey out of Scott that played for the Bengals.
Okay.
Here more recently, you've got Cole Mosier, who went on to play football at UK and was ready to have a breakout senior year and tore his ACL and was out his entire senior year. Ended up not getting drafted. He's now on staff at Walton Verona with Coach Barth there with football. You look at some of the recent grads. You've got Matty Shearer, who is going to play at Oregon, that we've talked about tonight. You've got Carson Williams, who has really done a good job down at Western.
What about Eddie Evanston? Did he played a little pro football, right?
Did he play pro?
I'm not sure. I was curious because I know Gary Ball talks about him all the time.
Yeah. Coach Evanston went from Newcath to Covcath, and you talk about elevating a program. The job that he's done over his tenure there in Park Hills is amazing.
Yeah.
They're unstoppable at this point. You have, let's see, who else?
I'm looking through. Maybe a quick Google search would tell us.
There you go.
Pro athletes from Northern Kentucky. I put you on the spot, and I apologize about that. But I was just thinking, man, David Justice went to Covington Latin, and he actually, what is so cool about that is he actually follows us on Twitter, and that's how I found out. Yeah, I was like, why is David Justice following us on Twitter?
Luke Maley out of Covcath.
Okay.
He's bounced around a few organizations in MLB.
And I'll tell you that kid that plays for Covcath, the Mayor kid. He is going to play on Sundays. He's going to Notre Dame.
Yes,
that kid. My goodness.
Yeah, he's something else. He didn't get the notoriety playing basketball that he did with football, but you talk about a multi-sport athlete right there, no doubt.
And he didn't even play this season in basketball. He decided not to.
I think once he signed on the dotted line, it's like, yeah, I think we're good right now. We don't need to possibly screw something up.
Yeah, I'm not getting any. I'm not getting any good listings here from Google on that. So maybe
Yeah,
we named most of
there's
them.
a couple of kids who've gone
Oh,
on to play Major League Baseball.
Sean Alexander, Boone County. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Interesting story with Sean. Um, I want to say it was after he was done in Seattle. He came back to the Boone County schools and said, I want to put a turf field at Boone County for football. It's his alma mater. He wanted to do it. He was going to foot the bill. $500K, no problem. And Boone County Schools said no.
Wow.
That if you're going to do it for one, you're going to do it for all of them. And I've had that ultimatum put to me a couple of times too. If you're going to do it for one, you're going to do it for all.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't do that. That's, $2 million at that point. Ryle already had a turf field. And this year, the Boone County schools, I think they're staggering them one a year, but they are going to put turf at all of the Boone County schools now. So Cooper, Connor, Ryle already has it in Boone County. So,
Nice.
a great job being able to get that done through the school district. And, those kids are going to have some good facilities for a number of years now.
Yeah, we're down to one field in Lexington that doesn't have turf, and that's Lexington Christian Academy. They're
Gotcha.
still grass. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
else has got turf.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the thing, where because I've heard that in other counties, Jessamine County was one of them where, we had R.J. Corman, which is the big train company, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to put turf over at West originally, at West Jessamine, and I guess it was turned away at first, but now both schools got turf. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm not sure if they ended up contributing to both or how that worked out, but yeah, so now both of those schools got turf, but you hear that all over the place,
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
You all right?
I think my tornado sirens just went off.
Is that right? Yeah,
They did.
Yeah, we better get off here then. You need
Yeah,
to
I
get you some
think so.
shelter.
Well, William, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come on. It's been great, and anytime, feel free to reach out. I'd love to do it again. There's plenty more stories here
Yes,
in
sir.
Northern Kentucky.
Yeah,
And
go get you some safety, man.
having fun.
Go get you some safety. Get under the stairs or find you a basement or
Yep.
something.
We'll head down.
All right, see you, Matt. It's been fun,
All right,
man.
take
Be
care.
safe.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
All righty.
All right, so that was Matt up there with Matt Buttelwerth with the Tri-State Sports Radio group, and he had to go. There kind of tornado sirens going off up there in Northern Kentucky. That was a first. Well, first of. But yeah, so we appreciate his time here today, and looking forward to catching back up with him once again. We'll definitely get back in contact with him, and appreciate him again for coming on to the podcast. And I do want to thank Mingy Beef Jerky, the official game day snack. Look at that! I got some hot. I got some sweet and hot. Got some mild up here. Some barbecue. Yeah, Mingy takes care of us here on the network. We appreciate all that they do for us. Mingy Beef Jerky, the official game day snack of Prep Spin. Also appreciate Bluegrass Orthopedics, the official sports injury medicine provider of Prep Spin. And I want to thank them, BGO Studio right here, the BGO Studio. That's where we're at right now. And could not do it without them either. So we appreciate them. Atkinson Sims and Kermode PLLC, if you're thinking about bankruptcy, give them a call. And also Lexington Diagnostic Center, where they can save you hundreds of dollars on your next scan, next MRI, next X-ray. Just give them a call and get you a quote. Lexington Diagnostic Center. Again, for Matt Buttelwerth, this is William Warfield saying until tomorrow night, we're going to have Eric Matthews on from Hawaii tomorrow night. Looking forward to that show. And we'll have it here live on the Prep Spin Podcast here with the King of Stream. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you next time.